live on the San Diego Comic-Con stage at the GameSpot base station. I'm laughing because just before I came back, they said you have another 4 minutes. Lies. Anyways, we're here. Bill Trinan is still with me, but we're shifting gears from Pikmin 3 to The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, closing out our show with our last live demo. And it's Zelda, which is awesome. Yes. Because if there's, honestly, Bill, like if there's, there's a lot of stuff to be a fan of here, but like that kind of fan glee comes out in me when it's Zelda time.
Yeah, and actually one of the reasons I love coming to Comic-Con is just all of the cosplay and everything. Like everywhere I go, I see people wearing Zelda shirts.
Yep.
I was here one year, there was somebody done up in this cosplay of the Skull Kid from Majora's Mask.
Oh,
that was
really?
Just amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
Totally killed it.
But we've got the new title. You guys announced this earlier this year at a Nintendo Direct, and it's for the 3DS. Obviously, that's what we're watching here right now. And set the stage for us here for A Link Between Worlds.
That's right. Well, first and foremost, as you can see, it goes back to the top-down view of the 16-bit Zelda games. And probably, as people can guess from the subtitle, A Link Between Worlds, it certainly ties back to A Link to the Past, which many people consider to be their favorite Zelda of all time.
Like a towering achievement of Zelda-dom and of game design.
Yeah, it's fantastic
eternally beloved title.
So this game, from a storyline perspective, is going to take place after the events of A Link to the Past. The world is going to be, essentially, the game is set in the same world, but because time has passed, some things will be different. So the overworld will have changes to it. The other thing that, of course, is different is that Link has a brand new ability. He has an ability to merge with the walls. Here we see Link.
Fairy.
Oh yes, going in to see the fairy, soothe his wounds. So now Link has this new ability. He can merge with walls, and he'll turn into this sort of chalk art of himself on the wall. Actually, very reminiscent of the artwork from the scrolls in the Wind Waker.
Yeah, it's a little. We'll see it in here in a sec, I assume, but it's because it's a little tricky to visualize. But that's what I was thinking when I saw it. It's that cave art almost, but a little bit beyond that, but like still like a very, here it is. It's sort of very like tribal kind of representation. It's that Egyptian, like you only see one eye on the face, walking like that. And obviously as Link has a rich history of new gadgets allowing him to access new areas. Yeah. This one, as a strictly movement-based trick, certainly seems like it's going to be crucial to the whole experience.
Exactly. So what it does is both in terms of exploring the world that you think you know from A Link to the Past, this allows you new ways to essentially traverse through that world by using the walls. That's going to get you to areas you've never been able to see before. And really, it's kind of interesting because the more that you play the game, the more that this new mechanic sort of shifts your perspective of how you view the structure and the geography of the game world. And then, of course, on top of that, you've got the verticality that's built into the levels, which we see right here. As Link's climbing up these stairs, the world itself feels a lot taller, and that's particularly is going to come to life with the 3D visuals of Nintendo 3DS. When you see that popping up within 3D on that screen, it's pretty amazing. So here we see that Link has just gone into, this is actually the Tower of Hera. You'll notice down below there's the touchscreen interface. Very handy. You can swap the items in and out.
Naturally. I love these smug, cackling like switches, and like you smash it and they get a sad face, and it's that's right. And then you stand on them and they cackling at me. Boom, launch you up in the air. Oh, cool. Right. And so there again, you're using that wall mechanic to traverse through the dungeons. Are you worried that I'm sure that people will get the hang of it, but you're worried that folks who have played Link to the Past a ton, it'll just their brains are so hardwired in to think of the space in the very specific way that they're just going to be like, well, I don't even know. How do I get past this part? It's impossible. Yeah, certainly that's going to be part of the challenge is kind of rethinking the way that world works. That's nice. Now, noticing something here on the left-hand side, right by the heart meter, is it like a stamina bar or some kind of, because that pink bar depletes when he does certain uses things, abilities or items. Or what you'll notice, for example, he's got at the X button there, you've got the bow and arrow, but you don't have a counter telling you how many arrows you have, like you would typically in a Zelda game. Sure. So what they've done is they've replaced having discrete numbers of items with your item meter.
which builds in a little bit of risk reward, right?
Okay.
You can, if you keep hammering away at the button and shooting tons of arrows, you're going to deplete that meter, and then the meter's going to be out, and you could be stuck in a situation where you're thinking, oh my gosh, I really should have done that.
I really need an arrow.
I need an arrow right now.
You could have just taken care of everyone with your arrows, and it's cool. You have to wait for that to recharge.
You'll have to wait for that to recharge.
So that's an item meter. That's then, especially with arrows or other ammunition for slingshot or whatever you end up grabbing.
Right.
What am I going to find in bushes and jars now? Just rupees?
Well, you will find a lot of rupees, but there's been also a slight change to the game that will put your rupees to good use that people can look forward to.
We haven't quite gone into super coy about.
We haven't quite gone into detail on that yet. But actually, that meter also works with the Link merging with the walls as well.
Oh, does it limit his time?
So yeah, he's got limited time while he's in the wall, and you'll see right here that introduces sort of these timing elements where he's got to get in the wall, get around, and get back on this moving platform before time runs out.
Oh, that is cool.
Right?
And then he's on.
So you can see he can traverse from one wall to another wall and another object, and those objects are moving. It really,
it really worked. Like the ways, even it's being shown off here in this dungeon. There's just a lot of tricks you can pull when you can sort of go from. I mean, essentially, Link is moving about on a two-dimensional plane. You know, he's got the X and the Y axis right now, but then you add that wall, it adds that extra dimension for you to play with.
Exactly.
Very neat.
So even there with the hammer, that's also depleting the item gauge.
Yep.
And again, and this is something that you've got to sort of pay attention to within the dungeon is, even if there's a window, before a barred window you would never be able to go through, but now with that wall mechanic you can just wrap right through the window in between the bars.
You can laugh at whoever put bars on the window.
That's right. You and your silly bars. They have no effect on me. And so, again, the way now the dungeon just flows from inside the tower to outside the tower. Obviously, even though it's called the Tower of Hera, which existed in A Link to the Past, completely different dungeon, completely different design.
Yeah, so how much of the maps will actually be recognizable to fans of Link from the Past?
Yeah, I think the overworld is going to feel quite familiar.
Yep.
And it'll be about sort of some subtle changes in there, maybe some surprises for people that they weren't expecting. But clearly, with the
definitely some surprises for people.
Yes. and then the dungeons are completely new. All of them are.
Very cool.
So that's going to be great.
Folks, this is our last gameplay demo of the day, but we are still taking your questions through the chat at twitch.tv/GameSpot and over Twitter here. So just send them to @GameSpot, and we'll be able to get your questions in on Zelda before we wrap for day 2 of our live show here at San Diego Comic-Con. So, one of the things that is always, for me, one of the more gratifying and intriguing parts of the Zelda adventures is the people that you meet and then you share your adventure with, or who you sort of overlap with. So, can you give us any certainly not a cast list, but talk about that and how you guys are sort of viewing that, people participating in this adventure with Link.
That's actually, a very good point, because A Link to the Past was sort of the first Zelda game that really took that and fleshed that idea out of you going into the village and meeting all the different people and sort of getting their backstories, right? Whether it's the Blind the Thief or some of the other characters that you're encountering there in the town or elsewhere in the world. And so definitely with A Link to the Past, or with A Link Between Worlds, we're going to be looking at how the world has changed. Perhaps you may see one or two of those familiar characters coming back in this game. Certainly, Kakariko Village is still there, so you'll want to go in and check that out. But it'll be, I think, a lot of fun. And then, of course, the other key thing from A Link to the Past was the Dark World.
The Dark World,
right?
Of course.
Yes.
So Dark World.
So there'll be lots to explore.
Yeah, so some people are very excited about, one person in particular loves Tingle.
Oh, there is somebody who loves Tingle. That's great to know.
Oh man, there's he's like a cult character. He's got his very niche followers who often wear spandex, and it's kind of alarming. But he does have his charm. Street Ninja wondering, when in the timeline does this take place? It's certainly after A Link to the Past, but is it like 200 years after, or a couple years after?
Well, sort of in terms of specific numbers of years, it's always sort of, in the range of hundreds of years after the previous game.
It's another, and then there was a boy in green clothing.
That's right.
Who, rose to become the hero of legends.
Exactly. So, obviously in Hyrule Historia, which released earlier this year, they mapped out the entire timeline.
Yeah, that like beautiful tome of Zelda knowledge.
That's right.
Yeah.
A Link to the Past fits in under there in sort of a peculiar position, which is after Ocarina of Time, if Link fails to save the world and dies. So it's one of the alternate timelines, and so this game would fit in post A Link to the Past.
Okay. There you
go.
go.
Before The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 Adventure of Link.
And so it's already in the Hyrule Historia.
This isn't in there, but
that's in there. That's your appendix to the Hyrule Historia.
That would be about where it fits in.
Courtesy of Bill Trinan from Nintendo. All right, Bill, that was a great look at Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, and this is for 3DS only.
That's right.
When are people going to be able to get their thumbs on it?
We're planning on launching this coming holiday.
This coming holiday season.
Yes.
Oh, I'm excited. I was here. I am thinking like he's gonna say 2014, and but this holiday. All right, Bill. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Doing the demo thing. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
And folks, unless I hear otherwise inside of my ear from the little man, that's going to wrap up our entire coverage here today at Day 2 of our live stage show from San Diego Comic-Con. Of course, we've got Day 3 coming up tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. Pacific with Danny O'Dwyer kicking it off with Random Encounter. And I think a few special guests again as we had this morning. Our coverage, of course, extends far beyond what you see live here on stage. We've got Homer covering the show floor. We've got Anna Prosser-Robinson on the front lines, putting together some really cool pieces, one of which I believe is from the deck of a pirate ship, so you want to check that one out too. We've also got Rich and Rob versus Comic-Con. Those dudes doing their thing, so there's plenty more for you to enjoy on GameSpot.com from Comic-Con 2013. But for now, I'm Chris Waters, closing today's live show, saying we'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Thanks for joining us. Take care.